Hello and welcome to the Womb Trauma Recovery Yoga sign-up page. I'm Sama Morningstar, and perhaps we met at an in-person class. The class may or may not have been called Womb Trauma Recovery. I tend to call this class, well, I have one place at Harbin Hot Springs where we call it simply Trauma Recovery Yoga or Somatic Healing Yoga. So you may be wondering why it's called Womb Trauma Recovery Yoga. And as you may have noticed in the rest of my website, most of my work is focused on womb-centered healing. And this is an all genders approach to healing work, focused on how most of our wounding, most of our ailments, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, get initiated while we're in our mother's womb, regardless of what gender we are. And I've been working with this experience, with this understanding for quite some time, tracing many of my regular massage therapy clients, chronic physical imbalances or structural stresses and strains back to things that happened in their mother's womb when they were developing. And that time when we're in our mother's womb develops a blueprint for our lives that then gets repeated again and again. So even if we had a more recent physical trauma, an accident, for example, a fall or an automobile accident, what tends to happen is because we have a blueprint of where an injury was in our body when we were in our mother's womb or when we were being born, our body, when in a current accident as an adult, will contract and try to protect that area that already feels traumatized or is holding old trauma. And so all of our subsequent injuries tend to gravitate toward those areas that were originally set up as physical injury sites in our mother's womb. This is true as well if it's simply emotional or stress-oriented injuries where for whatever mysterious reason, our body takes on, in a certain area, the emotional or psychic injury that's happening. And often it's from our mother's being under a great deal of stress or even a small amount of stress while she's pregnant with us. And then we take that into our bodies in different areas. And there are systems of understanding why we take certain things into certain areas of our bodies and like that, but I won't go into those details here. Suffice it to say that regardless of gender, womb trauma recovery yoga is very important, I feel. And this is why I've devoted my time and energies to creating this, because even if we attempt to address whatever physical ailment we may be having now, say a sore shoulder or a sore hip or tightness in the shoulder or hips and wanting to open our hearts, wanting to open our pelvises, even if we address it physically, we may not have addressed it on the emotional or psychic level. So if we have a habitual stress hormone response in that area, we need to address that on that emotional level. And that can stem back to patterns that were set in place in our mother's womb. And we often don't recognize that current injury has a trauma history to it, more than just whatever stress or strain brought it to a culmination of current pain. But if we look at our whole lifestyle, we see how every stress and strain throughout our whole life, starting from when we were gestating in our mother's womb, culminated to this moment of chronic pain. And that in order to truly address this moment's chronic pain, we need to release the trauma stored in the body from all the way to the origins. So that's one of the basic principles of womb trauma recovery yoga. And I just wanted to explain that here in case any of you were confused about it and had participated in my class under a different name. So all of the trauma recovery yoga practices that I share in my classes are designed to help our bodies instinctually release the storage capacity, the storage of trauma response that might be in there from a very long time, you know, from the beginning of our incarnation in this body. And so the more we do these practices, the more we can release the layers of stored trauma that we didn't have the chance to discharge throughout our lives. And that those layers arise for release at different times in different ways. And as if you have experienced one of these classes before, you'll know that I don't, in the class, I don't necessarily direct any, you know, the class to the students to look at a particular area and try to release a trauma from a particular time necessarily. It's more about awakening our own inner wisdom and our body's instinctual ability to release the chronic pattern of stress and trauma that we've been activated under and living under since, most of us, since we were conceived. And so as we gently remind the body over and over that it can release that pattern of stress and strain, and it has permission to do its instinctual thing around that, then the cloud or the habit of being under stress and being under strain starts to dissipate. And so I want to simply welcome you into this practice. And I'm offering here, as you'll see below, a membership option to sign up to be a member on this website so that you would be making a monthly contribution, financial contribution, and you would be receiving access to weekly classes, which are meant not necessarily to teach you things that you might not know, although that might occur. It's more meant to simply hold space for your internal wisdom, your instinctual wisdom to arise. And these classes will be live and you will have access to the recordings. And during the live classes, you'll have access to my support, because sometimes when these instinctual and emotional wisdom processes arise, they may feel unfamiliar, and having somebody who's familiar with those processes there to support you can be quite important. And to give you options of how to care for yourself when that arises. So that's the beauty of having live classes. And as this approach to yoga is quite unique, this is also why I'm offering it online, because people have come to my classes from all over the world in person, because I teach them at an internationally acclaimed resort. And so offering them in an ongoing way for folks who only come once a year or once every few months to be able to continue this practice at home. And that's another benefit of having an online class, is because you can do this practice at home on your own with my support live on the video call. But that often, being at home for me, I feel more able to fully relax into whatever process it is. And I can watch the recordings at times that are convenient for me at home, and I don't have to be traveling there and back again before and after the class, which can be challenging if you live in an urban area or anywhere really. Travel can bring up that stress response again, and if we're at home, we can truly relax if we're safe at home into not being in stress response for a more prolonged period of time. So these are all the reasons I'm offering this class in an online format and how you can utilize it to your optimum healing and wellness. So I encourage you to check out through the link below the plans page to join this site. There is a membership plan specifically for this class called the Womb Trauma Recovery Yoga membership plan. There are other membership plans that include womb trauma recovery, these womb trauma recovery classes on Saturdays, as well as other things. But if you just want to participate in the womb trauma recovery yoga, look for the one with that title and go ahead and sign up. And I've included a 7-day free trial so that you can try your first class for free and see if this format and doing the class with me live here on the internet actually works for you. So I look forward to seeing you in class, and many blessings. Take care.